Alright, today we're going to talk about how to measure bump steer. I'm not going to explain bump steer in depth, but I'll give a quick review to make sure we're all on the same page. Bump is wheel travel in an upward direction, and droop is wheel travel in a downward direction. As the wheel travels up and down, it moves in an arc, and I'm showing the hub arc there. The arc is controlled by the control arms in a double A-arm system, or the lower control arm and the strut in a McPherson strut system. So let's just say the arc is defined by the suspension mounting points. On the front of a car, you'll have a tie rod that connects to the hub, and it also connects to the steering rack. The tie rod has two movable points. With independent rear suspension, instead of a tie rod, you'll have a toe link, but they're basically doing the same thing. Except on a toe link, it's mounted, the inboard mount is mounted to the chassis of the car, not to the rack. So as the hub moves in one arc, the toe link moves in another arc. The difference in the arc as it moves up and down is bump steer. So as it moves, it could push the toe in or toe out of the hub of the wheel. So the car steers as a result of the wheel moving up or down. So there's a few different ways that you can measure bump steer. One way is to have a dial indicator mounted to some kind of a fixture, then have the dial indicator touching something that's mounted to the hub or the wheel. As you cycle the hub up and down, you can measure the bump steer directly on the dial indicator. That's not the process I'm going to talk about today. The process I'm going to talk about will use a laser pointer or some kind of a laser and a mirror, piece of paper, and some math. Don't be too freaked out about the math. It's just right triangles, and you can do a quick search and you'll find a number of right triangle calculators, so it'll be easy to just plug some numbers in and get what you need. So for the setup, first you want to lift the car off the ground. I've got my car set up on 4 jack stands when I do this. You're probably going to have to remove the spring from the car as well. At least that's definitely the best thing to do. That way you can cycle the suspension up and down without actually moving the car. So let's see. So you want to mount a mirror to the hub or to the wheel of the car would work just as well. I picked up just a $5 mirror off of Amazon and strapped it onto the hub just so it's good and secure and won't move around. And then you want to have a laser pointer some distance to the side. So in the drawing I'm showing this is 100 inches. My actual car, when I was measuring it, I measured it out, it was 72 inches. You just want to make sure that you measure the distance, you know what it is, because this is going to be an important measurement. You don't want it as close as like 12 inches, and you don't want it, the other side of your yard or something. Somewhere in that, 50 to 150 inches is probably a good range. So then you want a piece of paper mounted on something solid so it's not going to float around, and you can mark on it and it won't wiggle. And you want to measure the distance from the laser pointer to where the actual laser beam, the light beam, is touching the paper. In the drawing here I'm showing 10 inches. I think when I actually did this on my car it was closer to 32 inches. So you can see how that would make a right triangle. And I've got that triangle drawn out here. So now we go to the handy right triangle calculator, and we can plug in side B. We've noted that it's 100 inches, and we can plug in side A. We noted that is 10 inches. We can calculate, and then that shows angle A, which is what we really want to know here. Angle A is 5.711 degrees. So there you go, A is 5.711 degrees. Okay, so now we cycle the suspension up 1 inch, and we'll make a mark on the paper where the laser hits, and then we'll measure the distance from the old mark to the new mark. We don't have to measure the full distance from the laser again because we've already got that. So we just wanted to measure the difference there. At least it's easier for me to do it that way. And that distance may be smaller, closer to the laser, or maybe further away. So in this drawing anyway, if it's further away, then you've got toe in. If it's closer, you've got toe out. So let's then, so now let's either add or subtract from the initial point, whatever your difference is. So of course, if it's greater, you're going to be adding, and then you come up. So in this drawing, I'm showing this as adding 0.25 inches. So adding it together, it works out to 10.25 inches. And let's go to our handy dandy right triangle calculator, plug in the updated 10.25 inches, calculate, and we see that the new angle A is 5.852 inches. All right, so now you can subtract the smaller number from the greater number. And then for this, we get 0.141 degrees. So we can tell that cycling 1 inch changed our toe by 0.141 degrees. So now let's try and turn that angle into a distance. And I'm showing our little yellow orange triangle there, and that's what we're looking at here on the wheel. And yes, these drawings are not to scale. This angle is extreme. So with this new triangle, we know that angle A is 0.141 degrees. And for my example, we're saying that the tire size is 25 inches tall. So from the center of the hub to the edge of the tire is 12.5 inches. So angle A, we know 0.141. Side C is 12.5. And we want to solve for side A, so we know what our toe in is in this example. Back to the calculator, plug in side C at 12.5 and angle A at 141, and that gives us 0.030761 inches for side A. And that works out to just less than 1/32 of an inch. And let's take a look at that on the drawing. So we can calculate that we've done the calculation. You can see, so less than a 32nd in toe change. Again, this is just an example. Your real numbers will vary. Well, let's take a look at the actual video of running through this and see what that looks like. Alright, here's the basic setup. I've got my laser pointer over there, and then ignore all the mess in the garage. I've got the car here with a mirror on it. I've got a, if you can see, I got a pointer on here, and it's marked off in, you probably can't see that, inches from center of the hub. I'm kind of guessing at where I'm going to be on this, about 13.5, I'm going to say is rod height. And then mirror set to reflect back to a piece of paper here. I've already got the first mark on there for 13.5. So we'll cycle the suspension through. We'll do bump and droop and see what it looks like. Okay, so annoyingly, I recorded this once already with GoPro and it decided to not actually record it. So we switched over to the other camera. So I'm not going to run through it all again, but I'm going to just cycle the suspension through. Not exactly on the same dots I was on before. Things got shifted around a little bit, but it's close. So I'm at 13.5 inches center of the hub to the edge of the fender, as marked with my pointer. So if I cycle through, so that's about 13. So my pointers are a little bit off. So that's about 12.5. I don't think I'm going to go any lower than 12. I'm going to go in any more bump than 12.5 inches from the fender to the center of the hub, because the wheel is 24 inches, more or less. So much more than that I would be in the fender. But we'll go a little bit more. Alright, so now I'm going to come back down. Back to close to right height. Then I'm going to go into droop. That's 14.5. $15.5. And that's 16.5. So we're pretty much in that range through the whole cycle there. If you get your scale, that's about 1/4 of an inch cycling from what? That was from 12.5 to 16.5. That's way more range of motion than I expect I'll have. But yeah, we can calculate that and see what it looks like. Alright guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you found this useful and try to do more interesting things like this. I've got a system for using the same laser for doing alignment as well, so I may make a video or something like that. If you're interested in that, definitely post a comment, subscribe, thumbs up, that sort of stuff. Alright, I appreciate it. Have a good day.